Good afternoon, welcome to EduSet Network. Friend, today we are going to discuss a very important issue, the changing world dynamics and India. In the last few years, we have witnessed a large number of events that have altered the foreign relations of any country, dynamics of foreign relations. You all are aware about popular revolution in Arab world, and popularly known as Arab Spring Revolution. And presently we are having witnessed the whole Europe is going through economic strain, and in America, big superpower, that so-called big superpower, is also facing economic strain like unemployment and other issues. So in this scenario, we find that the foreign relation of any country is looking towards the prospects. So also India, we would like to try to understand in series of lecture how India can protect its interest and give a shift to its policy, foreign policy and other policy, so that we can have a better position in the coming years and have a good, you can say, good relation with other countries. So in this context, we will try to look at the India's foreign relations with different countries in Asian countries, European countries, American countries. So, but we will start today with our neighboring countries. And for discussion on this very topic, we have in the studio Dr. Satish Kumar. He is assistant professor in Central University of Haryana and a known columnist. He writes on different national and international issues in different newspapers, and so he has a keen eye on the world's dynamics. So on your behalf, I welcome Dr. Kumar for the lecture on this very topic, changing world dynamics and India. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is again a very important theme to discuss about. And as he said, in the last few years, and in fact few months, you might have seen, read a changing scenario of the world, from Africa to Asia, from Latin America to East Asia. And in this changing scenario, the role of India, the share of India becomes very important. And you might have realized this fact that in the recent international events, India is playing a major role, whether it is European economic crisis or the internal economic crisis within USA, or whether it is a matter of creating a new multilateral organization through which to create a substitute of American hegemony. In any respect, from any point of view, if we analyze the dynamics of international politics, we visualize that there is a role of India. India is a major stakeholder in international politics. So in the series of lecture which you will be hearing from different experts, will provide you an insight and knowledge about not only India's foreign policy, but how the foreign policy of any country readjust with the changing scenario of the world. And you might have read that is one of the criteria of any foreign policy of any country, is to excel its interest, and that is a national power, increase its share in the world, whether in terms of economy or in terms of politics. So today we will try to analyze the changing scenario in India's neighbor. There are many neighbors, as you know. Some of the neighbors which we share the boundary, and some of the neighbors, they are far flung but Fortunately or unfortunately, they have become our strategic neighbors. So, what are the major changes in our neighborhood that is most important to think about it, and not only to think about it, to analyze from the point of view of Indian interest. Let's first understand what is dynamics. When we use the word dynamics of international politics, of world politics, as we all know, anything or everything is not static. It is always moving. And when something is moving, we have to pace with, we have to accelerate our pace with the changing scenario of the world. The old policy needs to be readjusted, sometimes needs to be modified, sometimes altered to reach out with the making a space with the changing scenario of the world. And in the same way, when we try to analyze the changing dynamics in our neighbors, we cannot merely hog on our old foreign policy, but we have to see in the new formulations of that particular emergence, how does the interest of India lie, and what should be done accordingly to maximize the benefit from that intervention or from that exercise. That is all about the dynamics. So, when we analyze in India's neighbor, let's start with China. As we all know, China is the largest neighbor of India. It is situated on the north of India and supposedly one of the emerging superpower of the world. Its economy for the last 2 decades is moving at the pace of 8 to 9%, and it has challenged the American hegemony not only in terms of politics but economy as well. From different currents, different forces try to change the orientation of Indian foreign policy, but for quite longer time India maintained its staunchest curve, its own turf of independence. It did not become part of USA nor of erstwhile Soviet Union, and that was one of the major achievements of Indian foreign policy. Later on it might be analyzed and criticized that in 71, when India signed a 20 years treaty with erstwhile Soviet Union that violated the norms of non-alignment, that is altogether a different story, and that was a need and demand of the different dynamics of international politics. But at least for in the beginning of 2 decades, India maintained its stand on foreign policy and the dynamics of international politics. When we move from there, the change started taking place in China also. Deng Xiaoping, the new Chinese leader who became the main architect of Chinese economic policy, and when he came, the first thing he did, he set off the Mao Zedong's policy of expansion of communist ideology in the third world countries. His major agenda was economic development, and he knew that economic development can only come when there is a peace in the region, and not only within China but adjoining Asia, and to a certain extent in the world. And with these aims and objectives, China started playing a role which provided a space for India as well, and it provided a space for economic interaction. And as we all know, with this, after a very humiliating defeat from the Chinese, India started again aligning with China, and this time more on economic fronts. It was well thought by both the countries that despite the political problems, we will not discuss the knotty issues and focus on economic issues. Unfortunately, this trend continued, and not only continued, it was well reciprocated by the visits of the Prime Minister and the President from both the countries to each other, and it created a very amicable atmosphere. And for the last few years, we might have seen that China has emerged one of the leading economic partners of India. Despite the emerging economic ties between India and China, the political issues are still there. The issue of Arunachal Pradesh is there. The great design of China's Greater China is still there. Aksai Chin, the disputed area from where Pakistan has said it's a major part from Jammu and Kashmir to China, is still there. Tibet factor is again still there. But despite all the political problems, both the countries agreed to work together, at least on economic fronts. And not only on economic fronts, we can also see the interest lies of the two countries on challenging the major international issues, whether it is an issue related with the environment, whether the issue is related with the terrorism, whether the issue is related with the US hegemony. There are many other factors on which the interest of China and India are clubbed together, and they are on the same platform, voicing in the unison, trying to accelerate their bilateral ties and bonhoming in addressing the major international problems. So this is the new dynamics, and in the new dynamics there is one school of thought when this issue comes before the Indian foreign policy, that after Iraq war, America is the only single superpower. The world has become unipolar. So there is a one school of thought which strongly advocate that India should now become a partner of USA, and that partnership may go against China and create a new sphere for India in Asia as well as South Asia, and to a certain extent in the major parts of the world. But there is another school of thought which says that will be dangerous for India in the longer term. If India becomes a partner of USA, it might lose its strategic depth, and it will become a second fiddle of USA, and that may not serve the interest of India. Because China is our immediate neighbors, and if we have a perpetual unrest and conflict with China, we might not economically progress. So these are the two school of thoughts which are running parallel, and it seems in the new dynamics that China is not only an emerging superpower, but it has proved its coin that it is one of the superpowers. If on the one hand America is a superpower, then China has mucked up every quality to challenge the US hegemony. The military development which has taken place in the last 2 decades in China, though it cannot match with US, but it has definitely developed a lot. And economically, as we all know that the trade between US and China is always in favor of China. So that proved that economically, politically and strategically to certain extent, China has come very closer to occupy the place which was vacated by the erstwhile Soviet Union. And if this world is not unipolar, then it might be called a bipolar. And if it is not bipolar, then if it is a multipolar, where China has a major role to play, it is going to shape the new dynamics of international politics. So the interest of India lies strategically, how to curve, how to make its way between China and USA. So maybe in the later series of this discussion, where the topic will be exactly focused on India-USA deal, you will have more insight. So now we will try to move from China to another very naughty relations which we have for the last 65 years, that is Pakistan. You might be hearing in the last few days the unrest in India is designed in Pakistan. The kind of unrest in Northeast taken place, the rumors through the social networking is spread by the Pakistani spy agencies. Why does Pakistan do that? And it is India is not saying, India is saying with all proof that Pakistan is playing a role. There are many other events. Whenever the two countries are trying to create a common platform to develop its relationship, something goes wrong. And if something goes wrong, we as a student of international politics need to understand very categorically how and why does something go wrong. Who creates this kind of deviations? Are the certain people or groups do not want to see a very strong ties between India and Pakistan? And as we all know, if you analyze the data and see the relationship between India and Pakistan, despite the partitions of the two countries during 1950s and 60s, the trade relation between India and Pakistan was more than 50%. Pakistan export and import used to be carried out more than 40% with India single-handedly. And now what is the percentage today? It is less than 3 to 4%. From 50 to 3 to 4%. Why is it so? It is so nearby. There are so many things which we can buy from Pakistan the Pakistani market can buy from India, but they get it from Cuba, and the transportation eats up the price, and in the open market the price of sugar goes triple, which the people of Pakistan have to bear. So this is a very nuisance kind of things which have been taking place in the two neighboring countries, which share the common heritage, common culture, common language. So if you think about Indo-Pakistan relations, it becomes a quite pathetic, and sometimes we fail to understand how does it move. There are so many positive things are lying aside which can be capitalized, and the lives of the hundreds and thousands of the people could be made much better, but it has not been done. Then certainly there are certain groups which are very active in both the countries. They do not want to develop this kind of relationship, and that is why they create a hate. To understand the Indo-Pak relationship, as we all know that the creation of Pakistan was based on religion, that the Muslims will move to Pakistan and Hindus will remain in India. But despite Pakistan was being declared a Muslim state, the architect of Pakistan, they wanted to maintain the identity of a secular Pakistan. And Jinnah was, as we all know, at certain point of time, was called Harbinger of Peace by Sarojini Naidu. Because of the political motives, he might have deviated, and his political career provoked him to go for Pakistan. But despite creation of New Pakistan, he wanted that all sects and religions should remain together and their identity should not be diluted. And in the last few days, we might be reading and hearing from the news channels the internal story in Pakistan, that Hindus and Christians are being forced to convert into a Muslim. Their names, they have been threatened. They have been not given a space where can they maintain their religious identity. So this is a very pathetic situation which are turning up in Pakistan. But let's think about the new dynamics which are emerging in Pakistan and how does it impinge India. As we all know that Pakistan is an epicenter of terrorism. Forget about the love and affection between the two people across the border, but the diplomatic and official relationship have never been very cordial between the two countries after the partitions. We have already fought 3 wars. There was clashes in Kargil in 1999, and after 1999 there are many episodes which occurred which created a very bad taste between the two countries, whether it is the Mumbai attack or attack in different parts of the countries, the channel of the fake currency, the channel of anti-India wave in Nepal or Bangladesh, it was done by ISI, and recently the northeastern unrest which was done by ISI. So these are the many factors which are working together to create chasm between India and Pakistan, and which is a very dangerous symptom. The policy of Manmohan Singh, despite the criticism from within his own country, from the different political circles, he tried to bring peace with Pakistan. But despite this risk, Pakistan attempt was very half-hearted. It was very unexpected, and the one step backward and one step forward and 2 step backward policy was almost could be visualized between Pakistan approach to India. Let me analyze the positive factors on which the two countries, how can they maximize their benefits. As we all know that India and Pakistan are two countries which have a severe energy crunch. India is an emerging power and going to be economically very strong center of the world. So that is why it needs a lot of oil. It needs energy, and one of the best source of energy which we can derive from Central Asia, from where we have a very good cordial relationship, but the way is through Pakistan. This proposal is pending for the last many years. If Pakistan becomes a friendly country and works on the same intention, that will play a magic in elevating the poverty and the energy crunch from the two countries. But it has not been developed because of the certain vested interest of certain groups in Pakistan, and one of the certain groups is jihadi groups which are very active not only out of the power but within the circle of the power. And as we all know, the political setup of Pakistan, it has not been said by any other people, but it has been said by the ex-Prime Minister of Pakistan through the interview to the news media, that certain sectors in Pakistan like nuclear deal, Indo-Pakistan relations and terrorism, these are the factors in which the decision of the military is final. The civilian government does not take the decision on Indo-Pakistan relations. Whenever there is a concrete plan has been chalked out, the final decision comes from a military, and this is really raises questions on the credibility and legitimacy of a democratic government in Pakistan, and this is an open truth which prevails in Pakistan. So military does not want. If you read the history, there is another fact which is being shown, that on not only on the land but maximum multinational companies in Pakistan which churn out economy, wealth, are covered by a handful of the people. Not more than 100 elite family of Pakistan capitalize the major economy of Pakistan, and once a true democracy comes into force in Pakistan, their entity will be at risk. So this is one component which does not want to create a democratic sentiments to prevail in Pakistan. At the same time, a good ties between India will provide a youngster in Pakistan to run a full-fledged democracy in Pakistan that will be inimical to them. And that is why, with the creation of religion rather than politics becomes more fashionable in Pakistan, and the developmental issues are sidelined, and certain groups which emerge from this backwardness, which create hatred between India and Pakistan. So in the coming days and month, for the last 65 years, we failed to create a friendly ties between India and Pakistan. There are few visionary leadership from India as well as from Pakistan. They try to create this kind of scenario, but they failed finally. And let's hope for the future that the new young generation in Pakistan, they do not want to see India as an enemy, because from them economy is a major hurdle, their career is more important. They have never seen in their life a major conflict and war with India. So their memory is not affected by hatreds and animosity, but they want to create a kind of atmosphere in which the two countries move together on economic terms. Third, Afghanistan, that is also related with Pakistan. As we all know that India has invested hugely in Afghanistan, and we had cultural relationship with Afghanistan. But India developed this platform by visualizing that we can have a larger space in Central Asia. As we all know, that Afghanistan is a landlocked country, and since it is a landlocked country, it shares the boundary with the 3 Central Asian republics. And if the future plan of the gas pipeline, which is mapped out, will come from Afghanistan through Pakistan to India, so the turmoil which is in Afghanistan for the last many years, the categorical statement and the vision of India is to bring peace, and this peace should be restored where the larger player would not be from the outside, but indigenous Afghanis. They should take this opportunity to rule their country and progress ahead, and that is the agenda of India, and India is working on that. So you might have heard the American withdrawal from Afghanistan area will create a new scenario in the coming 2 years. Now the question comes up, will really America will vacate the area as it has promised in 2014, and if it vacates the area, who will fill up the vacuum? Is it Pakistan, or is it China, or any other countries? So this hobnobbing is going on. The conflict of interest are playing a larger role in Afghanistan, where India is one of the major stakeholder. And in-depth strategic policy of Pakistan in Afghanistan is unidimensional, and that is against India. India should not come to play a larger role in Afghanistan. If India plays a larger role in Afghanistan, Pakistan's interest will be definitely affected. That is the perception of Pakistan. But if both the countries in the larger interest play a joint role in creating a new Afghanistan, that will not only solve the problems of terrorism, but it will create a new pitch in South Asia, where the economic progress will be made very quickly, and the vision of gas pipeline will be materialized very effectively, and it will be done later than sooner. The third important unrest and which has the larger implications in international politics is Nepal. As we might be reading in the newspaper, hearing that extension of constitution building process in Nepal failed and failed to develop a compromise formula on the knotty issues like on the issue of federalism, the issue of bringing in the fold of the guerrillas in the national army and ethnic identity to be maintained. There are the few issues on which the constitutions fail to create a common platform. When the constitution making process failed, and new symptoms developed, and when the new symptoms developed, the hardcore political parties have threatened, CPI-MOL, they threatened that they are going underground, and once again before the two Jan Adalat, Jan Andolan, which was started, which took place in Nepal in 80s and 2005, they are going to run the third Jan Andolan and create a political unrest. But there are certain facts that are very clear. The credibility of the political parties and the leaders in Nepal have gone down. In the last 3 years, or more than 3 or 4 years, the people of Nepal have seen the faces of political leaders in Nepal. In one after another, political party was given an opportunity to form the government, and the people have tested the caliber, the interest and vision of their leadership, and they were massively disenchanted with the self-interest and misgovernance of the leader of the Nepalese leaders of different political parties. But how to curb, because once there is a political vacuum in Nepal, then it is definitely going to impact on India's foreign policy, because Nepal is very near to India, and as we all know, it shares the boundary with 3 very populated states of India: Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal and Uttarakhand, 4 states in fact. So if anything goes wrong in Nepal, it has a spillover effect on all the 4 states. So the policy of India is to at any cost maintain peace and tranquility in Nepal. There is another threat in Nepal. If India does not play a major role and the political unrest continues in Nepal, the larger player like America, China and other European countries will start playing their agenda. They will start playing their own role, and they have a certain vested interest, and that will be inimical to Indian interest. So this is another important dynamics on which India is working. India's foreign policy is very active in bringing a peace and tranquility in Nepal. Despite the failures of the Constituent Assembly, there is another process of realignment of the different political parties to come together, think about it, make a different groups, and through the constituent of the new Constituent Assembly, the process will start and the new constitution will come into force, and Nepal will have a democracy in a day to come. So this is on the path of Nepal, and if it doesn't take place, that will be definitely a very great concern for India. Another major important country which faces a turmoil in India's neighborhood is Myanmar, and it is also has a larger implications in the world. As we all know, Nobel laureate, symbol of peace in the world, Aung Suu Kyi, is now she is free, and positive changes are taking place in Myanmar, and it is taking place because of the Indian intervention. India played a role of harbinger. It brought, as we all know, for the last 2 decades or more than 2 decades, there was economic blockade by America and European countries against Myanmar. We had also very difficult ties with Myanmar till 1991. We did not go wholeheartedly with Myanmar because of the democratic factors, but when we realized, maybe it was late, but after that India established its diplomatic ties with Myanmar and cultivated multi-pronged relationship with junta, the military regime in Myanmar, and recently played a role in which the American came closer to lift the economic blockade. On the other hand, the junta of Myanmar agreed to not only free the Aung Suu Kyi, but at the same time create a process of democratic structure in Myanmar, and that is one of the laurels which Indian foreign policy has achieved in its neighborhood. In the coming months and years, we will see the major political change in Myanmar. The process of democracy will prevail. Besides other many factors, the agenda of democracy in South Asia is quite different from the agenda of democracy of the other countries, especially the USA. As we all know, if we see the Indian foreign policy from the point of view of democracy, we have advocated very strongly that democracy must prevail, but on the name of democracy we also establish our norms that it should not be an interventionist policy. On the name of democracy, we cannot intervene in the internal affairs of other countries. That has we maintain our policy intact. So looking at this, there are many other issues on which we can discuss, but these are the certain very prominent issues with our neighbors which we have discussed together, and through that we can also think about it. In the coming days and months and years, if the new dynamics emerge in international politics, what would be the best interest for India to play its role? Thank you.
So you suggest that our role is only a kind of facilitator of democracy that every country should follow, not an interventionist, you said, and we believe in strengthening the democracy and interest of each country we intact. We should not get out of the way to get only our share.
That is true, because the democratic forum of the world, which was created in the 80s and 90s by USA, it has a very different tone and texture, and it was wrapped up with a certain ideology of a self-interest of the European countries led by America, where on the name of democracy they intervened, they spoiled Iraq, they are spoiling Afghanistan, they spoiled in the 60s and 70s the many Latin American countries and African countries. That India did not want, and India did not want to become the partner of that. India believes that democracy is the best form of government, but that democracy should emerge from its own land, from the indigenous people of that particular country. It cannot be forced upon, and that is where India's stand lies.
Well, so well friends, the true significance, or we can say the essence, lies of democracy in evolution of the democratic spirit. It's not on the imposing on someone or some country. So I hope you got what are the major concern of the foreign policy regarding the neighboring countries. So with this will end the today lectures, and we'll have another lecture in regard to Europe and other countries in subsequent lectures. So I hope you have understood our concern regarding the neighboring countries. With this, we conclude the lecture, and I thank all of you for watching the lecture. And on your behalf, I thank Dr. Satish Kumar for giving such a wonderful, insightful lecture on the changing world dynamics and India. Thank you very much.
Thank you.